Coming up this week on the Course of Life podcast, it is now week 8 of the COVID sports blackout, but we might be technically lifting that pretty soon, Michael. We got live golf on TV next weekend, so we get into all that, plus what we did last weekend in quarantine. My second and third rounds golfing since the Rona were very different, and our guests this week are huge. First, we've got James Tait, world long drive contestant. This guy hits the ball 400 plus yards and has a really cool connection to St. Andrews, the home of golf as well. And we have part 2 of our dual interview with Mike and I talking to Tyler Lindquist, little horse racing 101 with our insider. But first, we've got to shout out our pals at Quantix Golf. I went out and played with the Quantix balls, Mike. In my last few rounds, if there's any indication, these balls might be doing the job. It might be what I need.
Are you done with your throwaway Titleist, and you're gonna go for Quantix?
I think so. What's the point of spending $50 or $60 for a dozen golf balls that aren't getting you the results you need? And that's exactly what Quantix isn't. That they're also a world-renowned chief ball scientist that's leading their charge in making these balls too, which is really important to me. This guy has designed balls for Titleist, Nike, and even the patent for top golf balls as well. They've got a massive amount of R&D and 100 years of experience in the golf business, and they've created a new hot ball unlike any others on the market. Not to mention, they control their manufacturing process, just like the big box companies as well. This allows Quantix to perfect the quality control with their products to give you the most consistent and highest performing golf balls at a great price. I'm a 10 handicap, just started playing these. My scores have dropped, and yours can too. So go to quantixgolf.com and check out their F35 control ball and the new F18 tour ball to help change your game for the better today. You can use the promo code podcast. Again, that's promo code podcast at quantixgolf.com to get 10% off of your entire purchase. Again, that is quantixgolf.com.
Interwebs, and welcome to another edition of Course of Life, presented by our friends at Desert Fox Golf, Groove It Golf, and Quantix Golf. This is a podcast where we talk about everything happening in the world of golf, plus other things that interest us from the world of sports and pop culture. I'm Michael, he's Alex. And Alex, I don't know how to open these anymore because there's just nothing's happening. The good news is there's light at the end of the tunnel in the world of golf. There's something coming. If something was happening, we'd have just wrapped the Wells Fargo in North Carolina. We'd be going into the Byron Nelson in Dallas. But we're not right now.
It's that Texas part in the schedule, though. And again, they've been trying to eye that return at the Colonial in mid-June. So we're reaching at least that part of the PGA Tour schedule.
And they need to be saying whether that's happening like in the next week or so.
Yeah,
right?
I'm still just saying it because no one else has said contradictory. So for now, that is what's happening. They've had some announcements on the Corn Ferry Tour, which we'll get to in a moment. But I mean, basically, we're about a month out right now. We need to decide and give players that 3-4 week buffer in the next week or two if we're actually going to go through with June. But like you mentioned, in the meantime, we have something confirmed. There is going to be live golf on NBC and the Golf Channel on Sunday, May 17th, all afternoon, 2 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. A 2-on-2 match confirmed between Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy versus Ricky Fowler and Matt Wolff. Mike, we've been hyping it up and we've been talking about the rumors for about a month or so. Rory finally hopped on the Today Show with Carson Daly and confirmed everything. It's a go.
Yes, I am excited for this. I'm disappointed I don't have NBC or Golf Channel, so I guess I will not be able to watch. But that's okay because we know that DJ and Rory are going to win.
Tons of online platforms, I believe, too. They haven't released the full array of exactly where it's going to be seen. We know it's NBC and Golf Channel. I think there's going to be some free platforms online. They haven't officially said yet where online, but I know that you're going to be able to watch it even without a subscription or any sort of cable service at all. So take comfort in that. It's going to be happening at Seminole, which is a very, very cool course. Yes. You can look up the pictures of that. It's
newly renovated, right? Newly renovated?
Yes, it's right on the water, newly renovated, uber private course. They're known for having one of the most affluent, impressive pro-ams like the day after the Honda Classic or Bay Hill or something like that, because there's tons of celebrities and athletes that are members there. It's going to be a really cool track that we've never seen a tournament on TV on before. So new venue, just new live golf. I mean, just a huge deal in the small scheme of things, just to see something live with competition in the next 10 days in our life.
Class.
Yeah, it will be nice.
That's all we can say. And then, of course, the week after that is the
match two, whatever we're calling this. We've given it about 5 different titles at this point.
Squared, which actually works, because then it's 4, which works. So we'll have that the week after. So we're going to have 2 weeks of golf coming up, which means next week we get to break down a upcoming golf match.
Yeah, we're going to be previewing things. We're going to have a field. We're going to break down players. Granted, there's only 4 of them, but we're going to do it with detail because we can. Yes, because there's nothing else going on. So
we're going to talk about the lines. We're going to talk about who you like and who you're going to bet on.
Definitely.
All that. It's going to be fantastic.
It's exciting just to say this. Just to say this. It's been a while, Mike. I can't believe this is happening. Wow. All right. So shout out to golf. Shout out to Rory. I wrote an article about this in our Patreon blog. This is really the workings of Rory. I get into that a lot more in my blog, but you can check out his ties and how he kind of really helped make this event come to fruition. So shout out to the golf that is happening. Yeah. With the announcements I mentioned a few weeks ago and the uncertainty of the schedule, the Korn Ferry has laid down some dates. They actually threw a couple tournaments in San Antonio. They threw some new tournaments up, one at Sawgrass potentially, if they look to start in June or July as well too. It's tricky though, because the one thing I wanted to touch on with you is the announcement that they're not going to move forward with the Q School process, which essentially means that guys who don't have a great 2020, it's not a big deal because we're just going to do like a 2-year season and just kind of forget about that whole wraparound part of the schedule. So a little bit of a clunk thrown in the schedule later this year. It's one of those things where it's like we'll get to that bridge when we cross it, but strange times for golf.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, do you think this favors the guys who does it favor to have a 2-year season in the Korn Ferry?
It favors the guys who aren't off to a good start on the PGA Tour right now, who are like 148th on the money list and haven't put together some great weeks and are wondering how many more tournaments they're going to get into this summer, like how many more cracks they'll have at it to get that top 10 or top 5 finish that keeps their status. So it's great for those guys. It's not good for the mini tour guys, the guys that we have on week in and week out of this program, the Korn Ferry, Mackenzie Tour, mini tour guys, who live year to year and month to month to chase that dream. And there's a lot of guys who are saying, God, this winter, fall Q School, this was going to be my last go, just financially, because that was all I had left to give this a go and actually get status on the Korn Ferry PGA Tour. So for those guys, there's going to be a lot of crossroads with a lot of mini tour players' careers.
All this talk of golf upcoming, I have to say, makes me, plus it's spring, which is when I usually want to play golf.
It is.
I'm thinking this week will be the week I finally try to go out. But you've been out like 3 times now. I have.
I've been out 3 times, and I will say I had 2 rounds that you would have envied and one that you wouldn't have. Because
is there 2 that I'd envy and one that's more realistic to how I would play?
Well, no, it's because of the company, Mike. It's because of playing with people versus playing by yourself. So I played a few holes, and I ended up splitting off with them. When I played a few holes, my second time back with 2 other guys, and it's interesting because now in this age, it's separate carts, it's 6 feet. And there are a lot of people who are adhering to that, and I've done a very good job of just being absolutely near nobody on the golf course. But that one time when I did play a few holes with them, the thing you notice, Mike, is on the tee box and the greens. Those are the parts of the golf course where you find yourself really making extra steps to walk around people and stay outside that 6-foot bubble. I give them like a B- C+ for their social distancing grade. I had to make extra steps, and park my cart a little further away on the tee box, stand a little bit further back on the tee box once they hit, let them clear out, give it a few seconds. Just little things like that I noticed. So for one of the 3 rounds, I countered that. The other 2 have been crystal clear and an empty course.
So I have to ask about the round you played with those 2 guys. The first is, were you forced to play with them by the starter?
Just basically by tee times coming in and players that were about to start. Yes, I was, but I was able to break off after about 6 or 7 holes once the course opened up.
How did you break off? Did you just go, "Hey guys, I'm leaving by"?
Yeah, pretty much. There were a couple guys that they wanted to play with that were like behind them, and so they just kind of wanted to slow down, and so I wanted to speed up. So it was just kind of a natural conversation that we had. So it it's one of those things where I feel like that conversation is going to be had a lot more as to like, do you want to play 18 with me? Are you comfortable? What are you doing right now? What's your status? It's weird to think, but you got to be a little bit more conscious of every move you make. And that applies to the golf course too. So far I've had good experiences, but just realize that it's on your own cognition now. You have to take ownership of what you do out on the golf course. Unfortunately, there are some other people who might not be quite as careful as you. That's just the reality of the situation.
True. Let's move on to talking about your favorite show on TV right now.
Yeah, shout out to Last Dance because it was a golf story. It took to episode 6. We finally got golf footage from Jordan, and we've heard these stories about him on the golf course, and quite literally, we've finally seen the footage. Like, this guy was out playing 18 holes the day of NBA playoff games, like in the middle of his career with the Bulls, like in the thick of it all, 18 holes before a game.
If it calms you down, go for it.
It was really a sight to see. And then one other funny story that emerged was a Brooks Koepka interview in the last week that came out about Koepka playing with Jordan. They were playing in a match in the last few weeks just to speak to how competitive Jordan truly is, both on the basketball court, the golf course, and everywhere else in life. Koepka had him one up through 16 holes, and they were walking to the 17th hole a few months back when him and Jordan played together. Koepka said something to the effect of, Mike, I think I got you right where I want you. And Mike turned to Koepka calmly and said, oh, no, it's the fourth quarter. This is when I win. And Jordan proceeded to win the next 2 holes against Brooks Koepka and win the match.
There's no one I don't want to play a mental game against like Michael Jordan.
And that's Brooks Koepka, too, talking. Like, this isn't no slouch here. This is one of the best golfers in the world who got stared down by Michael Jordan on the golf course and lost 17 and 18 to him straight up. So, fun times watching The Last Dance. And I was glad they finally mixed in some golf footage as well.
Exactly. Let's talk about our weekend turn. Yes. We do every Saturday on Instagram.
Shout out to
IG. That. Course of Life. Alex, as you, we also have our brand new Instagram, finally, CoL Pod.
CoL Podcast, where you're going to be joining.
I remember our handle correctly.
It's okay. It's new. CoL Podcast and Course of Life, Alex. We do the weekend turn on Saturday afternoons. I do a chipping challenge. And the breaking news I have for you is, Mike, we're going to change the chip shot location. We're going to mix it up. We're going to do another spot of the yard. We have a lot of different hole locations. So tune in for that on Instagram on Saturday. We'll catch up in between each podcast episode and bet on a horse race and have a good time on Saturday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern. It's the weekend turn presented by us on Instagram.
Let's move over to what we're doing during our quarantines. Let's talk about TV shows or streaming shows. I hate calling it TV shows when it's like it's on a streaming service.
Yeah, but cable's working hard for a lot of people right now, though. It is overtime for cable providers. I know everyone's kind of got the Netflix or the Hulu or the Amazon as a backup, but you want that cable humming right now, and there's a lot going on as well too. So what have you been watching specifically in the last week?
So the new one that I watched, it's actually a couple years old, but it's a very English scandal.
Okay.
It's on Amazon Prime. Stars Hugh Grant as the Labour Party leader in the UK back in like the 60s and 70s, right around there. Basically, all you need to know is he eventually gets caught up in a murder for hire plot.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard from Hugh Grant in a while. Good to hear that name shouted out. Yeah.
He actually, if you remember a couple years ago, he actually got nominated for a bunch of awards for his performance in this. He ended up not winning, but he should have. It was fantastic.
Okay. Very cool. Nice watch indeed. And then what I was taking a look at too is a couple things actually. First one was I saw the Parks and Rec reunion last week where they did kind of like a reunion Zoom and they were in character for the episode. I was never a huge fan of the show, but it was really fun to see them all together kind of on the same screen. It got my head churning because Rob Lowe and the cast had originally said that they had no inclination to ever do any sort of Parks and Rec reunion, but this scenario produced a unique opportunity for them to raise some money along the way and rehash their characters one more time. Mike, it has me thinking, what show do you and I love more than anything on this earth that we would love to see just one reunion show from?
I mean, Seinfeld, but I was so disappointed with the finale that I don't know. I don't know if I want to see what they would do next.
We gotta scrap it. We're 20 years in the future now. We gotta just pretend it never happened. Maybe we can pick up with some Curb Your Enthusiasm storylines or something like that with George. I don't know, but it had me thinking, if Parks and Rec can do a reunion Zoom, so can all these other sitcoms to raise some money for COVID relief. So you can only dream. Hopefully, we get a Seinfeld option next.
I mean, it would be interesting to see what it would be like. It's, are they still all living in the city? I just don't.
I mean, you would think Kramer went and retired at Del Boca Vista, wouldn't you? He loved it there so much.
He did. Yeah, that's true.
So these are the types of things I'd like to catch up on. So hopefully it's in the cards.
All right. Let's talk about other hobbies we're doing to keep ourselves busy. Honestly, for me right now, this is so nerdy.
We're 2 months in, Mike. I don't even know what's nerdy at this point.
I've been looking for cycling apparel because, I'm riding the bike a lot now. And
are you going to get a full Lance Armstrong suit?
Well, no, not quite. I mean, I already have shorts and a jersey top, but the shorts are not super comfortable. In about 45 minutes, the butt gets really uncomfortable.
God. I always heard that there was a legendary amount of chafing when Lance Armstrong won those races, like you wouldn't believe. So
yeah. I mean, it's not that the legs are tired, but it's not so much that as it is just the butt is uncomfortable that makes me need to stop. So I actually just ordered a pair of bibs. I've been told by a friend that bibs are the way to go. So we're going to try that out, see if that gives me a little more comfort on the saddle.
You're in the game. I love it. I need an action shot of you taking off down the street in full gear. That would be quite a video to see. And my hobby recently has been super basic. It's obviously in addition to taking those Sunday drives, which I posted. I showed you a beautiful view from the Oasis. Shout out to Austin, Texas's most wonderful view over Lake Travis. But when I'm going on those drives, I'm popping in CDs in the car and listening to the old music, the burn CD era from the 2000s, and really getting in touch with our old era of music. Our coming of age in high school and college, 2000s hip hop, the Y2K boy band era. I'm really going down quite a rabbit hole of old music, and I'm basically just pretending it's an earlier time right now.
What was your song in high school?
Oh, man, my song. Oh, so many. I would just lead with Black Eyed Peas because I listened to the Black Eyed Peas Ella Funk album on the way to all of my golf matches every afternoon in high school. Super nerdy, but it got me pumped up. Shout out to Let's Get It Started, an all-time classic. I've been listening to Lifehouse, my favorite band. The Carter 3, one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time from Lil Wayne back in 2008. So just lots of memories from the good old days. So I've been opening up the CDs recently. Okay.
I'm just impressed that you still have CDs.
I do. I still got them. They were hiding in the trunk of my car for about 4 years, and I finally unearthed them.
Yeah. Let's move over to pop politics.
Yes, that's right. We're done with Commander-in-Chief. There's been so much crap going on in the news with everything with Biden and Trump. I don't even know where do we even want to go with that. But the bottom line is that Commander-in-Chief's over. We have to put that in the past. We're going to move on to a new book, and we finally come to an official verdict on what we're going to read next for our weekly book report.
We're going to read the bombshell book, The Big Miss by Hank Haney about Tiger Woods.
Yes.
And we're going to read it together.
We are. This is a very interesting book, and it came at an interesting time in Tiger's career because if you remember, the Hank Haney period was the mid to late 2000s. This was when he went away from a fade to a draw. This is when his life got really out of control as well, too. So I'm curious to see what nuggets are in there and if any of that seeps through. And it was an interesting time where Tiger was trying to kind of find himself as a player and a human being. So we're going to recount that era of Tiger's career as we kind of look towards the future. It's a good look back at what was, and The Big Miss by Hank Haney. If you guys want to join along and order a copy, we're going to get that going next week with chapter 1 in our weekly book report.
It's let's call it a book club, Course of Life book club.
It is indeed. So anyone can welcome to join along. The Big Miss starting next week.
Exactly. Let's get into this week's first featured guest. He's a London-based athlete that participates in the World Long Drive Circuit. He's got tips on adding distance, which is great because he has a lot of it. He also shares how to stay fit and sane during quarantine. James Tait joins Alex. But first, it's time to answer one of life's most burning questions. Where does your phone go in the golf cart? Usually it's rattling around in some compartment along with a towel, your keys, and extra balls. It's likely to have scratched, cracked, and broken. But our prayers have been answered, Alex. Desert Fox Golf has given us the Phone Caddy. It's a phone holder designed to mount right onto the golf cart. It's got sliding wings and a faceplate that adjust to any phone, and it velcros onto the cart in seconds. Keep your yardage and scoring apps at your fingertips. Change music, answer calls and texts, and more, all with the Phone Caddy. It's the most functional way to keep your phone safe and ready on the course at all times. And we're excited to let you know you can save an extra 20% off your purchase with the new promo code Course of Life. There's a plethora of different colors and options to make it your own. Again, you can get your own Phone Caddy with the promo code Course of Life to save 20% at desertfoxgolf.com. So go ahead and get your Phone Caddy today.
Next up on the tee, he is a world long drive contestant who competes in long drive competitions around the world. From London, England, here to help with some secrets for power in the golf swing as well, too, and talk about his career. It's James Tait joining the Course of Life. James, thanks for hopping on with us.
Thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. I know not a whole lot's going on with a lot of the golfing audience that's listening right now, so figured we would touch base and talk a little bit about what's going on in your life and catch up. First, though, I see that congratulations are in order for your engagement. First of all, how's everything going with you and the fiance, and what are you doing with this time that you have at home now?
Well, thank you very much. She's actually still having to work from home right now, believe it or not. Luckily, I've got a lot of free time, but it's one of these things where I guess we're just having to go a little bit old school, kind of get the puzzles out, get the board games out, keep each other, I guess, kind of, entertained and just try and kind of get through it until hopefully all this the coronavirus and lockdown kind of comes to a close.
Yeah,
we're just making the most of obviously what it is right now.
Yeah, everyone's picking up some new quarantine hobbies at home for sure. So glad you're making the most of it. In terms of your background and kind of where you got started, just seeing the fact that you grew up in St. Andrews sets off kind of immediate alarm for any golf fan. Talk a little bit about where you grew up and how you learned to play the game of golf.
Sure. Grew up in St. Andrews. We moved there from Edinburgh when I was about 5, and lived there my whole life. Now our house was probably about a minute's walk to the first tee of the old course, so we were quite lucky with that kind of scenario. But also living in St. Andrews. Now I know in America the cost to play golf can be quite expensive, depending on obviously what golf course or country club you join.
Oh yes.
If you're a resident of St. Andrews, you get to play golf for £200, which is, I don't know what the conversion rate at the minute is. It's probably about maybe over $300, something like that. Mm-hmm. And that is to play all the courses in St. Andrews for the whole year.
Which is just laugh out loud funny because that's the cost of one round at some of the top courses in the United States. Just one.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an example, I think, I don't know if it's changed, but the cost to play the old course, I think, last time I checked, was around about £150 if you're a visitor. And obviously we pay £200 for the whole year. Obviously, if you live in the town, the only other thing you need to do on top of that is you need to be obviously affiliated with a golf club, and there's 3 golf clubs in St. Andrews. You got St. Andrews Club, the New Club, and of course the RNA, the Royal and Ancient Golf Club. But yeah, grew up there. Obviously, played golf probably all the way from the age of, properly from the age of about maybe 8 or 9. I'd always kind of swung a golf club from a really young age, but started playing properly when we kind of moved to St. Andrews. And I was okay. I wouldn't say I was the best player in the world. I was extremely wild off the tee, but that's probably why I do long drive now. Because I just tried to, all I had in my head is like, if I hit it as hard as I can, it's going to go really far and it's going to be closer to the hole in theory. However, it didn't always go in the right direction. So that was always the issue I had kind of growing up. But luckily, growing up on links in St Andrews, it's not tree lined. You've got gorse bushes and stuff like that, and it can be quite wide open. So chance of you finding a ball, if it goes a little bit left or right, is pretty high. So you're always kind of in play. But yeah, great childhood growing up there, and then went and traveled to America and tried to do mini tours and stuff and give it a go in Florida. Did a couple minor league tour events, and obviously growing up playing links golf, going over and playing.
Yeah, that's a big
the American kind of style. It's a big change,
big transition. Yeah,
huge transition, and it took me a long time to get used to it. I'd never hit these little chips off the green into grain before, and I still to this day can't get my head around it. Because I would literally hit it probably about a couple inches and I'll be like, what's going on? I hit the golf ball and it's gone like nowhere.
Yeah, it is a stark contrast between the course that you saw as a kid golfer to what you saw as an adult on Florida mini tours. Very different indeed. How many have you just lost count of the amount of times that you've gotten to play the old course growing up?
Yeah, unfortunately. But I tell you what the best thing is. The best thing I've ever done was actually obviously grow up in St Andrews and then move away. Because when you go back, you realize how special that place is. And it's always, and I guess you kind of, even if you're not playing the old course, or obviously my parents are still there, so when I go home and visit, just kind of even walking down to the golf course and just looking around, it's just like, wow, I really am just like very fortunate to have had that growing up.
Yeah, it's hollowed ground for sure, and I'm very envious of that upbringing that you had. Very neat to have those experiences. It's they highlight every aspect of the course, but it's not just that. It's the town and the community, and even the American golfing audience like myself gets to see images of the Dunvegan and the Jigger Inn as well too. Talk about like what the community and the pubs and the the year round atmosphere is like outside of just Open Championship week in St. Andrews.
Oh yeah, I mean, the best person to ask about that would be my dad. He's in the pub every day.
I bet he is, yeah.
The atmosphere around the town, even when there isn't a tournament on, obviously the Open kind of comes through every 5 years. The Dunhill Championships, the European Tour stop every year.
Right.
But even outside of that, what obviously you don't see is the amount of golf tourism that goes through that town in season. Like it's nuts. Obviously, yes, St Andrews is a university town as well, which makes up pretty much 50% of the population, maybe a little bit more. But the tourism from all corners of the world that come through there, pretty much starting from as early as April all the way through to I guess middle of October even, is nuts. You've got people coming from obviously America. You've got guys coming from South America. You've got people coming from China, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, literally all over the world. The atmosphere is really cool because a lot of the guys who are coming in, they're like kids because they're doing something which is like a once in a lifetime kind of trip.
Yeah.
So everyone's super excited, and obviously growing up as well, I caddied on the old course and the Castle course, which is the sixth course just outside St Andrews, and obviously met a lot of these guys on a day-to-day basis doing this year in, year out. And it's really cool just to meet everyone kind of coming through from all different corners of the globe.
Very cool, yeah, and it's a neat collection of the golfing audience. Like you mentioned, this is their bucket list item, and I appreciate you taking a minute there. I know this is like old hat for you talking about St. Andrews, but it's definitely a very mythical and cool place for the golfing audience. So you mentioned that you'd grown up there, come on out to America, tried your luck at mini tour golf and whatnot. I'm curious along the line, you always had the knack or the liking to hit a long ball growing up, not only with your family, but members of your family in golf as well. But talk to me a little bit about the first moments in which you actually maybe even discovered that long drive was a thing, or thought you might be able to do that professionally.
I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I had absolutely zero idea about long drive. I randomly stumbled across it thanks to my sister, who she works as a digital editor in the European Tour, and at the time she was working for a company, like a digital golf magazine company, and she said, American Golf, which is our big kind of like golf store over here, they were doing a long drive competition. And at the time, after coming back from the States, I was like, well, I haven't probably hit a golf ball or swung a golf club for about 3 years. And she was like, well, I used to hit it pretty far, so just give it a go. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't know, I don't really want to go. And I actually wasn't going to go, but she forced me to. So I went down. And the last time I think I'd been on like a launch monitor or simulator was getting fitted for a Titleist driver somewhere at the Fairmont in St. Andrews. And I did remember when I was on that, the guy saying, if you sort your spin out, you're going to hit it even further. And I was like, I had no idea what ball speed was, swing speed, anything like that at that age. I think I was like 16. But at 16, I think I had a ball speed of about 193, and I didn't know what that meant.
Yikes! Yeah.
Yeah. So went to this competition and had a couple warm ups. I was like, I feel good. I feel like I'm hitting it okay. And next thing I know, after a few shots, the guy who was there, he's like, come on, really just go after one. I was like, all right. And I went 393 yards, and I think the ball speed was 203 and the club head speed was about 142.
Just for perspective for golfers too, a ball speed that starts with the number 2 in terms of 200 plus miles per hour is pretty much unheard of. The best PGA Tour pros are in the 160s or 170s, on average. So.
Yeah, so to give you an example, like you top guys like your Brooks, your Rorys, they will reach up to those low kind of 180 kind of numbers.
Yeah.
I know Bryson DeChambeau has been working pretty hard. I think he's kind of crept up into the 180s, high 180s. So and that's kind of where it all started from, was that my sister forcing me to go to this, because what American Golf were offering was, if you're in the top 2 longest hitters of that golf store, then you go through to the regional round, and then you kind of go on from there to then obviously the UK national finals, and the winner of that finals then gets a free ticket to compete in the World Championships.
Yep.
Now, that was in 2017 when I first discovered that. Now, I did okay. I got to the regionals, and then kind of blew out there. I think I only managed to hit it. Well, I say only managed to hit it. I think I hit it like 370, and it wasn't good enough. But did a little research, and then discovered that obviously Joe Miller, who's obviously 2-time world champion, his coach was Lee Cox. And I was like, well, if there's anyone that's going to tell me what to do, it's that man right there.
Nice. We went right to the best.
Yeah, I was like, why not? If I'm going to do it right, might as well go to the best. Phoned Lee. Lee said, yeah, I'll have a look at you. Come on up. Realized he was only about an hour away, which was perfect, so he wasn't too far at all. Went up there, got me on the launch monitor, and straight away, I think I was with him, I was 139, 202 ball speed, and the first thing he said was, that's really, really good. We just need to get rid of that shitty stack and tilt you keep doing.
You didn't like the swing?
No. I'd been taught growing up to stack and tilt. So with all my weight on one side, I was still swinging extremely quick. So I wasn't right side loading and then left side loading and then pushing through the ground at impact like I do now. It was all just stuck and literally rotating, and that was it. And then from there we worked very, very, very hard through that year. Then 2018 came around pretty quick, and then I got invited to be a part of Long Drive World Series, and then our first event was in February in Dubai, and ended up practicing solidly indoors because obviously winter here sucks, so trying to keep speed up is almost impossible living here if you don't have an indoor facility to train at. I'm
assuming you're using like swing sticks or weighted clubs or whatnot to kind of train in weather like that?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen my Instagram, but I've got swing speed golf sticks, which are great. It just comes in one club, and you can take the weights off and on whichever one you want to swing. The weights go from 200 grams, 150 to 100 grams, and it's just a great way of training your body to swing quicker.
Very cool. And it's at Long Drive James Tait. If you want to check him out on Instagram right now while we're talking and take a look at the videos he does of his regimen and his exercise. So, you and things kind of took off from there, and you were able to get a win as well too, be part of that World Long Drive Series. So there's a lot of things moving in the right direction for the long drive career. I'm curious though, because and I say this in the most non-insulting way, is you don't necessarily have the typical ripped, absolutely bulging shoulders physique of the world's longest drivers, and yet you're hitting it as far, if not further than them, which is great for our kind of average golfer audience at home, because we all want to know. We all want to know how are you getting it done and getting that distance with your frame and putting it to distance and speed with the club and the ball.
Yeah, I'm a deceptive 222 pounds. So I think growing up, I played every sport imaginable. I was pretty fast. I was very good at basketball. High jump was one of my things. So I had a lot of explosiveness, I guess, from that. I always had a vertical jump of around kind of 36, 37 inches. So I could get up quite high, and I think kind of playing that definitely transferred into obviously what I do now, and did at a young age. But I've always been incredibly competitive as well. So even like growing up and playing golf as a youngster, I always tried to hit it as further than anyone that I was playing with. So I think that's one of the main reasons is why I was able to maybe transition into it so easily. Mm-hmm. But the hard work that you do have to put in is obviously, it's not really what you see. Maybe it's because of genetics. I mean, I'm quite naturally strong. Both my parents are very good athletes as well. But I think for me, I don't know. is the answer.
I guess from a physical standpoint, tell our audience who's sitting at home now and they're looking to get back out on the golf course, hopefully in a month or two, and see if they can add a few yards to their drive. What are some basic stretches or things that you do at home right now that help you increase not only the strength of your muscles but your ability to hit the golf ball a little bit further?
Yeah, I mean, every morning I will do a mobility workout specific for what I need. Now, I'm very tight in my hips. I'm kind of like maybe lower back, which is understandable because we generate and put so much force and torque through that part of our bodies. So I will do 25 minutes every single morning to try and work my mobility and kind of loosen myself off. And that is just, with not going into swinging a golf club or anything, that's just literally a routine I do every day. But it's dead easy, just 22 minutes of basic stretching. And then I think if you really want to add yardage into your game, swing more drivers for a start. I know a lot of people, a lot of amateur golfers will go down to the range and they'll hit, a lot of wedges, a lot of irons. They'll go through the bag all the way to the very end of the driver and maybe hit like 15 balls with the driver.
Yep, that's me.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the guys who are the best in the world right now, Kyle Barcher, obviously #1 world champ. That guy will hit 500 drivers a day and not even blink twice about it.
Not even touch a wedge.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's a great player, brilliant Division 1 golfer, but that's what he does. Sometimes he won't even hit wedges. He will just go up to the range and just start swinging drivers.
I like that.
It's him and Bob. Yeah.
Thanks for the permission. Thanks for the permission to hit more drivers on the range now. I always
do it. Absolutely. Don't take any wedges, no putters, no nothing. Just go with your driver, warm up properly, and just start ripping, and have a really focused session as well. Because I think you'll find that you'll start getting your natural shot shape, and then you'll be able, right, I've got that down, and then you start trying to hit different shots as well. Get comfortable with it, and you'll get the confidence as well, where you will then come to just wanting to step on it even more, and you'll just get stronger, and you'll develop your muscles as well.
Nice. I read that you were actually banned from a driving range. Tell me that story and how that went down. Or have you gotten back to that range since, or no?
No, I can't go back there. So it was when I kind of first started. I needed a range close by at the time. I was like, right, well, that's the only one in London, so I'll just have to go to that one. Now I went there, and it's kind of like what's the best comparison? Like a drive shack that you have, I guess, or a Top Golf.
So there's like a netting at the end, or kind of a wall.
Yeah, exactly. So it's maybe like 250 yards tops, with like a huge, massive net at the end. And it was in the summer, and I was down there at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like just getting a session in before work, and I hit about 150 balls with my driver, and all 150 cleared the net. But behind the driving range is like a space which either the guy who owns the land where the driving range is on, it also leases out a plot over the back of the range, because they obviously never had someone been able to clear it before. So I start hitting these golf balls, and this guy comes running over. He's like, "Stop! You need to stop hitting golf balls now." I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" They were setting up for this outdoor cinema behind the driving range, and I'm just dropping like a hellfire over the top of him with 150 golf balls. So I got asked to leave very quickly.
Yeah, I bet. Perfect location for outdoor cinema, right? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what are they thinking? But, yeah, so that was that. But yeah, never got got asked to go back there again.
How about golf course related? I'm curious, what is like the longest or like the craziest drive you've ever hit on a golf course? I'm guessing it maybe had something to do with like a par 4, but I don't know if there's maybe one that sticks out in your mind where it's like that was the absolute craziest drive I've ever hit on a golf course.
It's actually a par 5.
A 5, perfect.
It was downwind in St Andrews on the new course on the 12th hole, and it's just like this kind of pretty much straight down, a couple bunkers closer up to the green, but very kind of traditional links, narrow, straight down, loads of kind of swales, humps and bumps the whole way. And I hit this ball, and I thought to myself when I hit it, I was like, I hit that pretty good. I wonder where that's going to end up. And it was about maybe 10 yards short of the green, and this is probably about 512 yard par 5. And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, I must have hit a sprinkler head or something to have gone that far. But to this day, I'll never know what it hit or how it got there, but it was 15 yards short of the green.
Yes, casual 502 yard drive. Not a big deal at all. Yeah, great stuff. And the last question I wanted to ask you, which we love asking our guests, is when you do finish up the round on the golf course, we love talking 19th hole. So when you get into the clubhouse, what's your go-to, or you finish a practice session? What's your favorite meal and drink to have on the 19th hole?
It's got to be cheeseburger, Coke, followed by a beer.
Nice, very classic, traditional, and slightly American too in that answer. I like that.
Yeah. No, I think that comes with just kind of obviously competing in the States and stuff. It's, you know, when the boys kind of come together, it's like, because everyone's traveled everywhere, everyone is like, right, where are we going to eat? All right, let's go here, let's go there, and it usually ends up being, you know, like a Coke, a beer, and then a burger as well, and some sports. So it's always a pretty good way to call it.
Very cool. Love that choice. Hey, James, thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to keeping track of your long drive schedule. Best of luck with everything at home, training too, and we'll be sure to catch up down the line, all right?
That's perfect. Thanks very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
And we're back. Great chat there with James. 100 balls over the net. I mean, these nets are like so tall. To hit it over the net, you need to be we're talking what, 500 yards?
That was the absolute highlight of the interview, was him telling that story about getting banned from the driving range for smashing drivers over. And Mike, what is the owner of this driving range doing, having an outdoor cinema right behind a driving range? Like, did he not think that through in case someone hit it over the fence or something?
You got to diversify.
I guess so. He's running multiple businesses at the same time. Shout out to that guy. James Tait, never to go back to that range, but he was a great guest, and look forward to making a lot more content with him and seeing him in the long drive competitions when they get back up and going real soon.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk real quick about our Patreon, where you can go support the podcast. Starting at $5, get access to exclusive blog posts and content.
Yes.
Coming soon, Sean Lanier putting.
Yep. I put some blogs up also about social distancing on the course. Yep. Put a blog up about a lot of things as well. I put a recipe blog up as well too recently. So there's a lot of different things that we put on there. It's an extension of us and our personalities on the podcast here. You can be a part of it for as little as $5 a month. Super simple. And we're putting exclusive interviews on there each month as well too. Again, check us out on Patreon.
Let's move over to part 2 of our conversation with Tyler Lindquist. We learned even more about horse racing, got it broken down a little bit more for us.
Yeah, he's still sending me winners too. So shout out to Tyler at SirTLO on Twitter. This is part 2 of the conversation. We get into some funnier aspects of horse racing, talking about like the random tracks, the announcers, and just some random little tidbits to watch for when you're wagering on horses. It's still one of the only sports in town. We're creeping towards normalcy in sports, but for now, enjoy part 2 of the conversation with Tyler because he's got some gems.
That's right. But first, let's talk to you real quick about our partner at Groove It Golf, creators of the Groove It Golf brush. The Groove It brush is unique to golf accessories because of its patented pump that sprays water or your choice of cleaning solution on the club face prior to scrubbing. So it's easy to refill on the go around the course or at the range. It's got detachable magnets, which allow ultimate mobility on your bag when the clubs need a cleaning. Plus, the brush comes with a 3-year bristle guarantee. If you can wear out the brush head cleaning golf clubs in 3 years, send it back, and Groove It will give you a new one for free. The Groove It brush ensures maximum backspin distance and accuracy with each shot. So prepare to be amazed with the consistency and control the clean grooves will give you. Using your existing golf clubs with the Groove It, you'll get the spin trajectory and consistency you're looking for. So head over to grooveitbrush.com and get your Groove It brush today. Part of my other experience with horse racing is actually Alex and I are big Seinfeld fans. And there's a particular episode of Seinfeld where Kramer overhears on the subway about a horse loving the slop.
The mutter was a mutter, right?
The mutter was a mutter. And how much does that kind of condition a wet course versus a dry course really interact with how you decide how you're going to bet?
So it definitely plays a factor. A lot of the times when it gets sloppy, the races that are originally scheduled for the turf get moved from the turf to the dirt. And that's mainly because they don't want to tear the turf up when it's, all wet and basically turn the turf to mud. So they'll move those to the dirt. That is a huge angle because horses who run on the dirt, think about trying to run through, sand versus running on grass. It's a lot different. The horses who are running on dirt are a lot, I feel like they're a little lower to the ground, a little more strong.
A little grittier, maybe?
Yeah, they're really just digging out. And then, the turf horses are a little more, I feel like they're a little taller, a little lengthier. They try and, make bigger strides. It's a little different angle. So a lot of the times I look for horses. So basically what happens when a race gets changed from the turf to dirt, a lot of times, the trainer who has that horse placed in that race, they will scratch that horse and wait for basically a sunny day to run. And what ends up happening is there are generally about 3 to 4 additional entries or like other entries where if the horse scratches, one of them can come in. So a lot of times those horses are horses that are only entered in case it gets going, changes to dirt. And because the horse is because the race is originally set as a turf race, the odds on those horses will be, 12-1, when if this race was on dirt, it would be like 3-1. So a lot of times in my pick 3, pick 4s where, people who are just punching their tickets in at the tote don't really, know that or don't really realize that. I like to, go heavy on those main track only horses. That's what they're called when they scratch and, get put in place of them. I like to bet a lot of those main track only horses in pick 3s, pick 4s before, people see race time that horse is 2-1 when it was 12-1 on the morning line. That's a big angle. The other thing when you're handicapping is you can see on the past performances the different like weather conditions they ran in. So you can see how they've ran in the past on a sloppy track, and that is another huge angle. There's a lot of information out there, and it's sort of just trying to sift through it all and come to a horse.
Definitely. Cool. Let's get to some terms real quick before we get into some funny parts of the horse racing scene that I've noticed in my limited time with it. A few words that are kind of confusing to me, which I want you to clear up real quickly. The first one is I seen thrown around is the term gelding. Can you explain what essentially that means? It sounds like it refers to the horse, the specific type of horse.
Yeah. A gelding has been like neutered, or it's like had its package chopped off.
All right.
So a lot of times they'll think that'll focus the horse up a little more. If its eyes are sort of wandering, that's not an angle I look for a lot. But a lot of times you see like, oh, it's a first time gelding, meaning it's first race back after that. A lot of times you're kind of just looking for an angle. You want to see a trainer who they're adding blinkers or they're doing something. They have a plan. They have like a way they're going about this race. That's a lot better to see when you're handicapping than like, some guy throwing in his horse again, the same style, same everything. So yeah, it's an angle to look at. I don't look too much at it, but yeah, that pretty much means they're not having kids.
It really took me off guard, Mike, as you can imagine, like seeing that word on there and realizing what it meant.
Not a very comforting term. You threw out blinkers. What does blinkers mean for
blinkers off? I hear that a lot.
Yeah, so blinkers are it's a piece of equipment, and it goes over the horse's eyes, and you can almost picture it as like sort of like half cups, but ultimately a horse has it's almost unbelievable, like range of vision. They can almost see like 360 degrees around them. And when they're running a race, if they're looking at horses to their left and right and seeing them coming, it can kind of throw them off. You'll see them kind of, drift, or like they just don't have their focus. And what the blinkers do is it sort of adds, the left blinker will be like a half cup on the inside, so they can't really see to the left back. And the right blinker is the same way, where you can't see, behind or to the side of you. And it really narrows that horse's, field of view. And that's one of my biggest angles I play is first, second time blinkers, because a lot of times you'll see a horse that had a ton of energy and stuff, and they're just kind of wandering around out there, is how I like to put it, or just not closing hard, not focused. And then they put the blinkers on, and they have their almost tunnel vision, and they have their focus on where they're going. So that's a super lethal angle.
Nice. I appreciate you being the thesaurus for us for these terms that are new in our lives now. So we appreciate that.
I have been there, man. I used to be, typing stuff into Google, being like, what does this mean? But yeah, you learn as time goes on for sure.
Yeah. So let's get into some weird things that I've noticed in my limited time, just kind of being an outside observer, just diving into horse racing world, like from 30,000 feet. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of complaining and a lot of conspiracy theory heads and corrupt tracks and sketchy horse racing styles. Is there a big community of people who are just like that think that everything is corrupt and like fixed and rigged? I feel like I've seen a lot of that undercurrent on Twitter and social media in the horse racing community.
Let me tell you, horse racing Twitter is a crazy place. It is, There's all sorts of stuff thrown like that around. And honestly, I think at smaller tracks, some of that stuff does happen. I don't know to the extent that people are complaining about it, but there have been jockeys who have been fined for bad rides where they're waiting for someone to go on their inside because they have a huge exacta bet on it. There are little things that have came out, but at these bigger tracks, it's really more people complaining because their jockey gave their horse a bad trip, or the horse. A lot of times, horse sometimes will go out and it just won't want to run. So
which is natural. They are animals, so they're allowed to do that.
Exactly. And some people get mad about that, but I mean, the biggest thing right now is the performance enhancing drugs in the horses. They just caught Jorge Navarro and Jason Service and a few others who, honestly, if you're in horse racing Twitter for a while, you would kind of know, that they definitely do that, but no one's doing anything about it. It kind of seems now that things are cleaning up after that. And, some other trainers that we used to think were, also could be bad, they're suddenly hitting at, they were winning 30% of the races. Now they're winning 10%. There's little things like that are changing now because, the FBI stuff just happened a few months ago. But prior to that, it could be sketchy at times, but at the main tracks, they really do have it pretty much under control. It's when you're starting to bet these, random harness races at 10 p.m. or, these super small tracks where the win pool is like a couple $1,000s. It's kind of hard for them to get away with that stuff at these bigger tracks like Gulfstream or Oaklawn or,
I had my moment. I had my moments with Cal Expo. Rest in peace to the harness racing episode I had. Lasted a good 3-4 days, but it ended quickly. So
the harness races are fun, man. You see some wild stuff go on. You see 90 to 1s crossing the line like it's easy.
Let's get into these announcers, because myself and Mike both come from a broadcast media and media production background. Talk to me about some of maybe your favorite announcers or announcer moments, because their voices and their tone, like some of them are super monotone, some of them are the exact opposite. The horse racing announcing community, what's that look like to you, who's in it every day?
Yeah, so there's a couple good ones and ones that are known. Larry Colmus does all the NYRA tracks, which would be Aqueduct, Saratoga, and Belmont. Travis Stone does some work at Churchill. He's the one who calls the Derby. He's pretty good. Vic Stoffer is down in Oakland doing that track. I don't know how they do that, to be honest with you. I know horse racing so well, but like I can't remember, every horse's name for each number and like be looking at the whole race. Like they'll say something up front and be like, "Oh, but the 4 is coming from the back," and they'll name the name. It's crazy. I think Travis Stone is one of the best. He's a good caller. Larry Colmus the same way. You do see some funnier stuff at the smaller tracks when, it's someone new, like learning it, or not necessarily learning it, but, they're just not experienced, where they'll be coming down the stretch and be like, "Oh, this horse has it all the way." And then like all of a sudden, nowhere you see that horse get beat at the wire. And then they're like, "Oh, actually, you know what? Like someone else came through. Like, sorry about that." It's always like an awkward scene, but I would say at the bigger tracks, they definitely are good. And Larry Colmus and Travis Stone, they're two of the best.
Nice. I had a brief foray, and Michael mentioned only left turns, but there were some hard right turns in the Australian racing that I bet last weekend.
Down under.
I went and do a crazy rabbit hole late on Friday night after a few glasses of wine and had some great success there. I'm going to try my luck again the next couple of weekends. But yeah, it really does span the world, and there's like always a track running. There's always an option. It's really amazing how much is still going on in the horse racing community despite everything going on. But hey, it's the form of entertainment that we need right now. So I do appreciate you coming on. Mike, any last words or thoughts for Tyler before we sign off on Horse Racing 101?
I guess one last question would be, does the name of the horse play at all into when you bet?
Thank you. Good question. Yeah.
So I'm a big stick numbers guy, but if I see, a horse in like Tyler's Dream, I'm going to bet it. I'm a gambler.
Yeah, your first name.
We're all having fun out here. If this is like, what you're making your living on, I don't know if you do that, but I think I do it well enough at other times where if I see a name I love, I'll bet it. And I remember one time, it was something like Lynn's Map or something like that. My mom's name's Lynn, and I just put $5 on the horse, and it was 50 to 1 and 1. That's just nice. That's like one random one I can think of. But yeah, especially on like a pick 3 or pick 4, where you're picking like a few horses in a given race, you'd be an idiot not to include that just for luck. Because when that horse wins, you're going to kill yourself. It's brutal if that happens. So you can't allow that one sometimes.
There you go, Mike. Permission to pick your own name for future races, just in case you need it. Okay. Awesome. So again, hey, Tyler, it's at SirTLO on Twitter. Thanks again for joining us. Looking forward to more of your handicapping and your tweets on the world of horse racing, and appreciate you joining the Course of Life.
Thanks for having me on.
And we're back. A great finish to that conversation we had with Tyler Lindquist. Just so much good stuff in there.
It is. It's nice to get a little bit of perspective on horse racing, because I'm kind of entering from 30,000 feet now that they rip sports from our lives, and I needed something to latch onto. So it's good to have an ally out in the field, when I'm checking out these dollar bets on random Tuesday afternoons. So keep him in mind at SirTLO for all your horse racing questions and needs. He's a good contact and a great follow as well.
And let's move over to baseball. It's back.
Oh, it's back.
It's here.
It's very back.
It's in Korea.
Yeah, it's not back in the United States, and probably not soon.
It's being broadcast in the United States.
I heard some murmurs, by the way, on Twitter just last night. We didn't even mention this before we hopped on, but I heard murmurs about July 1st opening date. That's what they're aggressively trying to get to. We have no clue whether that's going to happen. But the bottom line is that baseball is back in Korea, so much so that ESPN has latched on, and they're going to start televising 6 games a week. They're going to do it in the middle of the night. Actually, just watched a replay this afternoon. Even Carl Ravitch on the call. They're trying to latch on to Korean baseball, because it is back. Technically, it's not the same, but it's back.
And it's a different. Baseball in these Asian countries is a different beast than baseball here, because those crowds are like the crowds you see at football games in Europe. They just nonstop on their feet, screaming and shouting.
I know. And so what they did, it's so strange, because they you can tell that they were really thinking about the lack of crowd like being an issue, and they were wondering like how we're going to make this look. So they literally created cardboard cutouts, and they stuck one in every single seat in the stadium. So if you pan like behind home plate, you just see a bunch of cardboard cutouts. And then they also, you'll appreciate this from the production standpoint, they piped in just like random crowd murmuring audio as if there's a crowd there.
So it's exactly like a video game.
It's just like, think about when you like left the game on pause playing Ken Griffey Jr. baseball in 1998, and there was just that murmur of just the people in the background, and once in a while you get like the heckler being like, "Hey, hey!" It's basically just like that. What they've done with the KBO, so it's a very strange feeling and a little bit of a throwback feeling too. Hearing that crowd noise, but
Carl Ravitch just needs to practice, so good for him.
The games are like 1:30 a.m. Eastern time and 4:30 a.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. So if anyone wants to indulge, have at it and let me know.
I mean, I hear the first games got delayed. Our friend Seth Rothman on Twitter was not. He was just losing it.
He would be the one watching. Shout out to Seth Rothman. He'll keep us updated on the KBO for sure.
Let's move over to basketball because what's the idea?
Yeah,
now
we teased this on the weekend turn. They're throwing Disney World out there, the most wonderful place in the world for the NBA, right?
No.
Yeah. So NBA, ESPN, and Disney, very tight relationship. Obviously, broadcasting rights for a while now, and they're just again, we're just throwing gum against the wall and seeing what sticks. And right now, the tentative theory is that we can move part or all of the NBA into one central location, and the biggest one with all the room possible that you could actually lock down. Maybe Disney World in Orlando, Florida. They've got a bunch of courts. They've done summer leagues there. They've done college and AAU tournaments there. Logistically, there is actually space to make this happen. I just don't know how they're actually going to have the whole league there safely. It doesn't add up.
I don't know if I like any of these plans right now that any of the leagues really have. So I think it's just all too soon to make any kind of judgment call.
Let's just keep doing golf with 4 people over and over again, and then we'll just add 4 people every week. How about that? Does that sound like a plan?
Slowly ease our way back into a full field of
that's what we got to do. That's the next Rory announcement. In June, we'll have 8 golfers. In July, we'll have 16.
In June, what they're going to do is they're going to take Tiger and Phil. Will join them.
Oh man, we're way ahead of this too. This is so going to happen later this summer. Yeah, it is.
Let's go back in time for a moment.
Again, this is a big throwback episode, I feel like.
Do you remember back in the winter of 2005?
Yeah, we were just very, very immature freshmen that just started the idea for a radio show in college.
We did. And we would go out to the Northford Ice Pavilion.
Yes, just a dump of a hockey rink.
Just one of your really wonderful rundown old hockey rinks in New England. And we watched the Quinnipiac Bobcats play hockey when we got there. First time D1 hockey team. First time they moved to D1.
Yeah.
No, they were already in D1. First time in the ECAC.
It didn't feel like D1. Let's put it that way.
But back up even further. 26 years ago, Rand Pecknold, coach of the Bobcats, first joined the squad as a coach, and he has made them into perennial powerhouse top 10 team.
Yeah. I mean, geez, I'm trying to think of analogies on my feet. I would say Rand Pecknold's the Nick Saban of Quinnipiac University. Would you not?
I mean, he's made Quinnipiac. He's put Quinnipiac on the map.
Yeah. Definitely, what Brad Stevens did with Butler in college basketball, that's the level that Rand Pecknold has given to the university athletics program. So shout out to Rand.
The difference here is that Rand ain't going nowhere.
I hope not. I think you just threw the jinx on him right there, but I hope not.
Well, I mean, we keep thinking he may go somewhere, but then he signs up. He extends his contract for another 4, 5, 6 seasons.
It's true.
So I really wonder I'm sure he's gotten a ton of offers to go to the NHL, to go somewhere else. I'm sure he's getting paid a lot of money. But, he's got a lot of roots in the Hamden, Connecticut area. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Hey, listen, you and I know all about job uncertainty these days. 26 years for that guy, that is impressive, especially at the Division I level.
Hope he's got a nice gold watch to go along with his 26 years.
Definitely, yeah, that is the anniversary. Good stuff. And perfect segue. Speaking of anniversaries, I got one coming up as well, too.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag in with food.
Hashtag always on the food. It is your first anniversary. Happy early anniversary. We're a few weeks away, but
yes, we are. May 11th officially is the day. 1 year ago today, I got married. Couldn't be happier. And hashtag always end with food. Also sponsored by a new partner too, a very relevant one. Yes. Not to get too national newsy, but I've heard that there's some meat shortage. And
Wendy's is not having burgers on some menus.
That's right. Wendy's is taking burgers off their menus, ladies and gentlemen. There's a big time meat shortage. So why not introduce you a new partner of the Course of Life? We can give you a discount on meat shipped to your door. No joke. It's our friends at Rastelli's Meat, the best assortment of responsibly sourced meats, individually packaged and shipped directly to you. No grocery store trip, just high quality meats delivered to you. Rastellis.com. The promo code is GOLF10 for 10% off of any purchase at Rastellis.com. RASTELLIS.com. GOLF10's the promo code. So it's hashtag always end with food. The meat shortage is on. But I will say, Wendy's is out on burgers. I already did the Italian beef. I have meat coming my way, Mike. We ordered Chicago deep dish pizzas from Lou Malnati's. So they're coming our way for this weekend with any hope.
That's really a casserole, right? A true Chicago deep dish is a casserole.
Basically, it's a pie with like some cheese stuffed in and sauce on top, and you can not eat it with a fork and you cannot eat it with your hands. It's all fork and knife.
Just go watch Jon Stewart's rant on Chicago deep dish pizza from his tenure during The Daily Show, and that's all you need to know about what I think of Chicago deep dish.
Perfect. I'll play it for my wife. I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
That said, there is a place in my heart for Chicago deep dish pizza.
And everyone knows if you've been to Chicago, Illinois area, you know Lou Mal's is one of the best. So I'm going to be getting that this weekend. And we're going to actually cut into the wedding cake from a year ago. So we just read in the last couple of weeks, and you can tell me, if you did this, did you do this at all? The first anniversary wedding cake eating? Was that a thing for you?
We did, but here was a problem.
Yeah, so we're wondering if we may have a problem as well. What was yours?
It didn't get frozen right.
Uh-oh.
It didn't get wrapped quite right or something. No. So we took like 2 bites out of it and we were like, no. And we like threw it away. It didn't go well.
I think we're going to have the same issue. I think we are, Mike, because we looked up how you're supposed to wrap it, and I don't think we've done any of that for the last 51 weeks. So I'll let you know how it tastes this weekend. Yeah. I'll take a bite and do it. I'll take a bite and turn to my wife and say, tastes amazing, just like the first year of our marriage.
Ooh, I give it 6 months after that happens then.
Yeah, so we'll see how the wedding cake goes down. But shout out to everyone out there who's making the quarantine the best of what it is, and theme weekends, keep it up. We'll have another great episode for you next week with some great guests. We're going to go food and wine realm as well, too. So we're going to take a departure from the sports next week. We're going to have some really cool guests from other parts of life coming up next week on The Course of Life. From Michael, I'm Alex. Everyone have a good week.